you probably need to wait more in your life. In fact, it might even be good for you to be bored sometimes. Welcome to Ask Sean, where I explore all sorts of questions about being human and invite you, the listener, to become more present to yourself, your relationships, and your life. I'm Sean Slevin, licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And if you have a question for me, I would love to hear it. You can send that to me anonymously at asksean.org. So why would I say that it's good to wait? This sounds like a crazy idea in our culture, right? Like we are all about, having our same day shipping or, Amazon Prime, fast shipping. We want things yesterday. We don't want to have to wait. And, it's as much of sort of the modern, kind of dream, right? As like everything instantaneously, having all the choices, all the options, all the things, not having to wait, not having to be inconvenienced in any way. So why might it be good for us to wait? Why might waiting be good for us? Why might boredom be good for us? So, we're in a culture that is constantly vying for our attention. I'm not saying something that isn't being said by other folks, many of whom are smarter than me, right? There's all sorts of studies being done on this kind of thing. The ways in which social media or the news or just our phones in general are, kind of sucking the attention out of us, right? Trying to capture our attention, fighting for our attention. So I think about kind of three categories of where waiting is good for us. Like waiting creates space in which to rest. It creates space in which to reflect or to come to know ourselves a bit more. And it creates space in which to play. So thinking about this rest angle, right? And about sort of this, kind of cultural dynamic of, everything screams for our attention. I think that attention, or what I would call attentional energy, if I could maybe potentially mangle the words a bit, I think is one of our most important limited resources. It's a bit like time, right? And that there's kind of an upper cap, right? You can only pay attention so much in a given day. But it's a little different than time in that you can kind of store up attentional energy, right? Time, it's like as time passes, it passes, right? You can't recapture that. But when I wait, like when I'm waiting in line and I don't get on my phone, or I'm sitting at a stoplight and I don't get on my phone, like my attentional energy, my attention can kind of recharge. I'm letting that muscle relax a bit, right? If you think about attention as a muscle, we're in a culture that is like using this muscle from the very early moments of our waking up till all the way until we're in bed. And then some of us, if we're leaving our phones on, not silenced, or if their phones have like notification lights, we're actually being affected by that overnight. Like they've done interesting studies that even though a person may not wake up, they may not consciously register it. If their phone is producing any kind of either, a sound, a vibration, or a visual notification cue, flashing light or something, like anything that actually could be sort of perceived by our body, that even though you're asleep, your nervous system will respond to that interruption in a similar way to when you're awake. So it can really destroy the quality of your sleep, right? So even though you may not be waking up, if your phone's buzzing all night, with all sorts of random notifications coming through, or making noise all night, like your body is taking a hit, right? Like even there, your attentional energy is being sucked out of you, right? Whereas when we create the space to wait, this can start to recharge a little bit. So I've been thinking about this, and this is part of what kind of prompted me to want to do this video. So I've talked about this and aspects of this repeatedly. I've made lots of great progress, and I'm always working at the edges, always working at my growing edges. It's just because I want to be as healthy as I can be. I want to have as much life and vitality and peace and joy as possible for me in this life. And so, for me, the mornings and evenings are always the hardest, because that's when I'm, when I'm first waking up. I haven't fully booted up, right? So my willpower isn't totally online, and I'm groggy. And then at the end of the day, when I'm tired, and we should be tired at the end of the day, because we've hopefully done some things. We've hopefully lived life, done some work, had some experiences, and it's the right feeling to be tired at the end of the day. But again, harder to have, good willpower. And so I've been kind of I've been thinking about how I don't keep certain kinds of junk food in my home because I'll eat it. Or the funny alternative is I'll totally forget that I have it, and then it goes to waste, and then I find it 2 years later, and I'm like, oh, right, I didn't remember I had these cookies. And I take a bite, and it's like, oh, that is disgusting, because it is totally spoiled. And so it's just either way, it's not good, right? It's not good if I'm binging on it or whatever, and it's not good if it goes to waste. So there's some stuff I just don't buy. And so I was thinking about how can I do this with my phone, right? How can I do this with my technology? My technology is great tools, super powerful, really grateful to have it all. My computers and devices, and my phone and whatnot. But yeah, it also has access to junk food, and the thing is, there's layers of, it's not even, this doesn't have to be anything morally bad. It's just I don't need to be wasting my attention on that, right? I really enjoy Instagram, and I think there's a great use for things like Instagram and social media. And there's a point at which it's okay, I'm no longer using this well. Now I'm just wasting time. Now I'm just distracting myself. Now I'm spending my limited resource of attentional energy on shit that's not important to me. And why am I doing that, right? And so thinking about how can I limit the junk food, right? So there's just can't easily access it. So I'm gonna talk about two things that relate to this. There's gonna be several kind of plugs for just some tangible stuff that you can consider. Pardon me. Oh, got a burp stuck. So one of these things is this app that I came across recently called ScreenZen. Now I'll put a link to it in the description and whatnot. And there's lots of different apps out there. You may have something different you use. I want to talk about kind of the functionality of it that I really appreciate, because I think that's instructive in terms of if you want to explore using an app to help you with this, the kinds of things that I think can be really useful. So of course, you can set up schedules with it. I appreciate that it has some there's detail there, right? It can be more nuanced. For me, I wanted to set up particular schedules for morning and evening, and then different schedule for daytime. Because during the day, there are certain things that I'm not as prone to waste time on. But in the mornings and evenings, it's I really don't want to be spending my energy, checking email or getting on Instagram or Reddit first thing in the day or at the end of the day. That's just not how I want to be spending my time. And so I want to make that really difficult. Now you can, with this app, you can just totally block something. You can set, a window in which okay, don't allow this at all. But I'm going to make an argument for why something different I think is actually more useful. And so this app also has the feature where you can configure in very you can make it totally custom, right? It gives you a bunch of options, but then you can just type in your own time frame. But basically you can set a delay, right? And I think this is actually one of my favorite features because it's practicing waiting, right? So I can check my email at night or in the morning, but I've got to wait 4 or 5 minutes. I forget what the exact, because it's I set it in number of seconds or whatever, but it's several minutes. And so this means I have to sit there holding my phone, have to keep the screen on periodically because if it goes to sleep, then the timer's going to reset, right? So I basically can't do anything else, right? And this, I think, is actually really useful. Like it's in a funny way, it's almost kind of meditative, right? Like it actually creates the kind of space that I'm advocating for in this video, which is a space for our mind to wander, right? Where I'm not requiring it to like focus and think hard about anything, you know? Like we really need that muscle to relax, right? Like we can't just keep it so tensely like, you know? I mean, it's like if you're like focusing your eyes really hard, like you're, you know, all these muscles get really tired, right? Like, and so we're doing sort of the mental equivalent of that, or sometimes maybe literal equivalent, depending on our vision and our phone and how, you know, all this kind of thing. We're trying to squint to see some little, you know, thing in the corner of the video or whatever. So yeah, I really like this. And part of also too, what I appreciated about it is it gives me this chance to experiment and discover, okay, how much of a delay do I need in order for this to be effective, right? Because you know, like there can be reasons where it would be appropriate for me to want to access these apps in these different windows, right? But I want to make it difficult enough that I really have time to think about, like, is this really what I need to do? Is this really what I want to do? Can this wait? Could this wait till tomorrow? Could this wait another hour or two, like if it's in the morning? Right? Does it really need to happen right now? I want to create space for that. And so it's revealing and potentially humbling of like, oh, you know, 30 seconds is not nearly long enough. 60 seconds is not, a minute is not, 2 minutes is not long. Okay, how many minutes does it have to be before I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to check that unless I really freaking need to check it, right? So I don't know. I think that wait functionality is so freaking useful. I think that it's much better muscle building in terms of we're building the muscle of restraint, right? You know, in order that the muscle of attention can relax, you know? So I think it's much better muscle building in that regard than just a straight up block, right? Because I think the thing about blocks is that can feel like a nuclear option where it's like, oh, but then I can never access it, and you know, and so leaving the door open of like, yeah, I can access it, but I've got to work for it in the sense of I actually have to let myself rest. I have to have some space. I have to do nothing for several minutes while I wait for the phone to unlock. And of course, this app has the very critical feature of you can lock down the settings. So you can configure the same kind of delay for changing the settings. So I can change the settings. I just have to wait several minutes. And so the goal right there is of course to make it difficult to cheat, right? Because there's nothing like setting a limit on ourselves to discover, oh, here's all the creative ways that I start to think of that I could cheat on this. And so, yeah, it's, you know, there's other apps out there, but this is a great one. I'm really liking it. It's got the level of customization that I find really useful in terms of, you know, my being able to dial in different needs for different times of day, and I really like the features that I've mentioned. At the time that I'm making this recording, the app is free. The reality is, takes a lot of energy, a lot of resources, right, to maintain apps. So I would not be surprised if it has to go to paid at some point. They do have an option to donate at the beginning, which if you are somebody who has resources, I would encourage you to do, right? You know, spend the $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever. Like that's going to help make it possible for it continue to be, you know, potentially free and or affordable at least, you know, so that more people can have access to this kind of a resource. Now, obviously, this app, it doesn't make up for that we have to do work. And that's, again, where it's like I like that the waiting it's a kind of restful work, a work of rest. You know, so, but it's a useful tool, right? It's sort of like what I was saying of like having limits on the junk food that I have in my house, right? And so that so that I'm not either wasting the food because I forget that I have it, or, you know, eating it more frequently than is really good for my body, right? So yeah, that's I wanted to make a plug for that. I think apps like that are really nifty. And it also it's available for all the platforms, for for Android, for iPhone, for Mac OS, for Windows even. I haven't tried out the Windows app yet, but I'm curious to check that out as well, potentially. So I want to make another plug for something here a bit different. This one has a bit more work involved. So there is a really cool 6-week program, 6-week kind of online interactive workshop / course called Foundations of Agency. Now, I got to be a participant in the first cohort of this last fall of 2025, and had just a great experience. It was really, really enriching. This is being put on by the organization called Cluny. Cluny is really cool group of folks. They're basically concerned with all the kinds of things that I'm concerned with, which is to kind of put it simply, of how do we become more human, right? So this intersection of philosophy and embodiment and art and science and technology and faith and all the things, right? And so they're just they're engaging with really meaningful questions and discussions. And so they're spearheading this kind of this new program that they're calling Foundations of Agency. The two people who are kind of head this up are Luke Burgis, whom you all may have heard me talk about before because I've read some quotes from his book, Wanting. Highly recommend this book. Fantastic. Yeah, just fantastic in so many ways. It there's a lot of things about it that were not new to me. If you've been following me for a while, or if you've been a long-term client of mine, you know that I've been thinking about these things a long, long time. But he just puts things in such a helpful way, and he introduced me to some material that was new to me as well, and to some angles on things. Rene Girard, a philosopher, is kind of the basis for a lot of what Luke is talking about in that book. And yeah, just fantastic material. Highly recommend it. He's got another book coming out soon, I want to say in a couple months. I got to read some of that as part of being in the Foundations of Agency, and yeah, it was great. Really looking forward to that. And then the other person is Jordan Castro, who wrote this book, The Novelist, which I sadly have not read yet. Apologies to Jordan. I'm very much looking forward to reading this. As far as I understand it, this actually has a lot to do with what we're talking about here in terms of the struggle to use our attention well, right? All the ways that we can get distracted. So yeah, Jordan and Luke are just, they're lovely people, really thoughtful in how they're engaging with life. And I've been grateful to get to learn from them and spend time with them and whatnot. Also, so the next Foundations of Agency, as of this recording anyway, is the next cohort is going to be here in spring 2026, and I'm going to be one of the facilitators. So that's an added bonus. I'm honored to get to contribute in my small way to that. So I'll put links to this in the description. But the idea here with the Foundations of Agency workshop is, so there's some teaching, there's definitely reading, a lot of reading, and then it's a lot of group interaction. So you're broken up into small groups, and the groups rotate every 2 weeks. And so I was just really encouraged at how quickly we were able to drop into just being real with each other and wrestling with the ideas that we're talking about, and talking together about, okay, here's where, I'm experiencing some success in living in kind of a what we call an agentic way, taking responsibility for myself, right? Taking ownership of my life, like actually making choices instead of sort of my choices making me, or whatever, if I could munge the language a bit. But yeah, so it's all about, how do we learn and live into new ways of being? How do we actually live, right? And not just be sort of robots sort of being pushed about by culture and by technology. How do we use technology wisely? All these kinds of things. So, no course is going to like be the end all be all, right? But like this can be a helpful step, right? It's online, so I mean we had folks from all over the world in our first cohort, which was such a delight. Just really quality, good people who are trying to become more human. So that's another kind of thing. I'm sure there's other things out there of this sort. This is just one that's on my radar and that I'm getting to participate in. So just a few more items. I'm not going to spend as much time on these in part because some of it is stuff that I've said so much about before, but just thinking about opportunity, how waiting gives us an opportunity to reflect. An opportunity to know us better. Now, some of you have maybe been feeling uncomfortable from the very beginning of this video. And thank you if you've continued watching anyway. But just the whole idea of waiting, of like not getting on your phone, right? The whole idea of allowing yourself to be bored, like that might be bringing up some things inside of you. I remember once when I was, I'd been at a conference and kind of post-conference, several of us were having lunch together. And somebody was asking me like, oh, so are you going to listen to a podcast or music as you travel home? I had like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hour drive. And I was like, I'm a bit of an introvert and, I've been with people all weekend. Like I'm probably just going to ride in silence and just like give myself time to metabolize and to process and to think. And they were just like, whoa, hours of silence. Oh my gosh. But they were, and what they kind of went on to talk about is they were afraid of what would come up inside them. Now, for me, I do so much work with all the stuff inside of me that it's like, there's nothing that's going to come up in the car that I haven't already been dealing with, right? Like, if I start bawling and I need to pull over, fine, it's like, wouldn't be the first time. So, but, I've cultivated habits and a way of being, right, where even though it can still be scary to go into the intense places, like I choose to go there, right? Like I've been building those muscles a long time. Now, I'm not saying you need to have a breakdown or something. But if there's discomfort that comes up in the quiet, in the pause, right? In the 2 minutes while you're waiting at a stoplight and not getting on your phone, or waiting in line at the grocery store or something, if that's uncomfortable, notice that, right? Like pay attention to that. Like there's something there asking for your attention. I talk about this kind of thing over and over, right? Like don't abandon that part of you. Don't ignore that place inside of you. Something in you needs you. And it's your job to get to know it and to learn how to love it and care for it. And that can't happen if you don't make space. And here's the hard truth, which is that if you do keep ignoring it, if you don't make space, it will have to get loud and potentially destructive to get your attention. That may take the form of you losing your shit, and doing relational damage. Or maybe it takes the form of you getting really, really depressed and you can't understand why because you've been tuning out, your heart for so long. Or maybe you get sick in some strange way, right? Like our body and our soul together will protest if we keep ignoring things. And so it is always, like just from a pragmatic standpoint, it is always cheaper and easier to turn towards it sooner rather than later. The longer you wait, the more it will cost you in all of the ways. Like I know this personally and I know it professionally from my work with so many people. So turn towards the discomfort, like make use of even just these little micro moments in your day to don't fill it with your phone, right? Don't waste your attentional energy on that. Like just let your mind wander, let uncomfortable thoughts and feelings bubble up. And then start to be okay, what can I start to do to work with and know these parts of me? Do I need to find somebody like a counselor or, a mentor or someone who can walk with me in and support me in whatever's coming up, especially if it's starting to feel like it's pretty big. So don't neglect all that. And then finally, last but not least, opportunity to play, right? These little moments of waiting create opportunity to play. And play is a fundamental element, I would suggest, of creativity, bubbling up, and just the creative spark in us, right? So I think about when I was a kid and waiting on my parents in all sorts of different contexts and ways. And this is like this is back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and whatnot. But it was, no smartphones, right? Like it was earlier days of internet and stuff. And I mean, I didn't have internet in my home until, I want to say probably college. Anyways, doesn't matter, but just thinking about how long it's been. But childhood, right? Like no devices, didn't have any stuff, like maybe I had some action figures with me. A lot of times I had nothing with me. So it's like I would figure out how to play with, random bits of like, dust bunnies or leaves on the ground or, a tag on something in the shopping cart or, like just random things, right? Like there's something beautiful that happens in the context of limits, in the context of like, I didn't have a ton of choices to make. I could just be with what was and work with that. And I think it was really good for me. That didn't mean it was all fun, right? Like I was bored at times, right? But in that boredom, like I found my way into all sorts of, little mini, bits of fun, bits of creativity, bits of, imaginative experiences, all sorts of things that can only happen if we create space. Can only happen if we're not on our phones, if we're not filling our head with something, right? To let your mind wander, to let yourself sing out loud in the car, right? Like without any music, right? Just meander, randomly rhyme words together and then laugh when it goes off the rails. And this is something I do. Right? But there's just something so nourishing about just allowing that to just play, just be silly, be whatever, right? Doesn't have to be anything in particular. This isn't about performing. It's not doing anything for people. It's not about being productive. It's just being, just existing in the moment. Like we need so much more of this. And like our phones cannot give that to us. Instagram, email, Reddit, whatever your thing is, TikTok, it can't give this to you. Like it just can't. There's a place for all those things. I'm grateful that we have them, but it cannot give you life. It can't give you vitality. It can't give you true play, true connection, creativity, any of these things. There is such a beautiful world around us all the time, and we don't notice it. There's so much nourishment that we could be receiving that we block ourselves off of because we're constantly down on our phone, right? Got to check this, got to check that. We don't even know why we're checking. We don't even know what we're looking for. So again, this is where our, things like that app and the space that creates for me to be like, is there something in particular I'm getting on here for? Like, why am I getting on? Right? Like maybe this isn't actually what I want to do, what I need to do right now. Or things like the Foundations of Agency, course, right? Where it's like providing some frameworks for how to think about and some practices and community to wrestle together and hold one another, be honest with one another, hold one another accountable. So yeah, rest, reflection, play. There's lots more could be said about all of this. But my invitation to you is to wait, to hurry up and wait, to wait more in your life, to be bored more in your life. It's a great space to just be, space to be uncomfortable so you can work through things, space to play, to be silly, to connect with yourself, with nature, with the world around you, with your fellow humans. I've had times where I'm waiting in line where it's like I have a random little moment of connection with a stranger just because I'm not in my phone and they happen to not be in their phone miraculously, right? And how wonderful, right? Like those little moments, they add up. just this human connection. People are so disconnected and so lonely in our culture. I mean, how much would that feel even a tiny bit better if we all like actually occasionally had tiny bits of interaction while we're waiting in line? I mean, like it, again, not that that solves all the things, but it's something, the accumulation of these things, it adds up. So, yeah, I hope that you will wait a little bit here in the coming days. And if this, the things I'm talking about, if this stirs up some, some questions, some objections, some particular examples, right? I would love to hear those. You can send those in to me at asksean.org anonymously. You can either type them up or you can do an audio recording. We'd love to respond to. Yeah, there's a 1,000 variations of things we could talk about here. And yeah, would love to give some time to that. So until next time, peace be with you.